Just I'll press the button now then, but
Yeah, no worries, buddy.
okay, we're live, mate.
Excellent. Thank you very much, bud. Thank you for jumping on this morning as well.
Okay.
Always a pleasure having your company, mate. Good morning, everybody who's watching along. Good afternoon, good evening if you're watching it back later on in the week. It's absolutely lovely weather at the minute. You know what I mean? I wouldn't blame you at all if you wanted to get out there and enjoy the sunshine and set this away later on once the sun's gone down a little bit. I was just saying to Daniel this morning, it's a bit of fresh air after the way that the last year's been, and certainly I don't know about you guys, and of course everyone interprets it differently, but this last lockdown from the start of the year has just felt cold and wet and dark and grey, and it's just so nice to have a little bit of a change and like almost like a hint of normality sort of peeking through, isn't it? Yeah, so hopefully we're all feeling good, we're feeling motivated, we're feeling energized, and you know, maybe there's a couple of you thinking now's the time to start considering, right, okay, the way that life is going to be, the way that sort of my day-to-day life's going to be, how am I going to fit some exercise in there? You know, now's the time to start thinking about some exercise again a little bit more. Of course, if you've sort of stayed tuned with what we've been doing at Media Savvy, either through the other courses or even just the Staying Connected series that we did last year, you know, we'll have seen that we've always been promoting, of course, staying fit, staying active, staying healthy. Me and Daniel have talked quite a lot as well about different yoga and exercises and stuff like that we've been able to do in the house. There's plenty of stuff on the Media Savvy YouTube channel, different workouts, one of which we're going to run at the end of today's session as well. So we've got a lot of options anyway, and then of course everything's opening up again. We've got gyms available again, community centers available again. When the weather's like this, you could get yourself out for a walk and, you know, go as far as you want, really, you know, depending on how what transport you've got access to. You can maybe go further than you've potentially gone for the last year, you know. So yeah, hopefully we are all feeling good and feeling like, okay, how can I start making progress towards where I want to be? Because, you know, we sort of mentioned the other day, and I was speaking to the guys in the drop-in last week, it's not as though we've all just been able to, okay, right, that's just back to the gym, back to normal, this, that, and the other. We've all got different barriers, we've all got different circumstances. And like I say, for the last year, a lot of people might not have been thinking about fitness and well-being. You know, there's been a lot of other barriers and concerns and worries and stuff going on that people have had to focus on. So maybe you're sat there and you're mainly just now realizing, you know, your health and your well-being might not have been a priority for the last year, and that could be totally fine. You know, like I say, we all do have times where other stuff's going to come up, and we have to prioritize other stuff. And you know, the last year has been something unlike I'm sure any of us have ever seen before, you know. So maybe now you are in a position where you think, right, I want to get moving again, you know. Maybe, you know, you've got to put on the old summer dress that you wore 2 years ago when you were allowed outside. Maybe it's not fitting quite as well this year, you know. Maybe you've gone out for a walk and you're realizing that I'm not getting half as far as I used to and I'm getting out of breath. You know, those just little ways of your body letting you know that maybe you have sort of underused it for the last year, as I'm sure again that a lot of us have, you know. I've made a point of trying to stretch and move as much as possible, but there's only so much you can do when you're living with restrictions. But yeah, I know you've been the same as well, you know, sort of working out in the house, and it is like when you've got other stuff going on, you've got family to look after, there's obviously other stuff to worry about as well. Finances, of course, the way the economy's been, a lot of people losing jobs. Health, and going out for a run or doing those sit-ups or those planks on the morning, they probably haven't been a priority, you know. So yeah, maybe you are now in a position where you're thinking, right, how do I make a start? How do I start to pursue this more active lifestyle, really? Because we've sort of mentioned before, and I sort of say it all the time, your body is just the physical representation of your habits and your lifestyle, really. You know, when your habits change, your body will change. If your habits change back, your body's going to slowly change back as well. So that's why we need to make these changes sustainable, and that is why we need to be looking at all these different aspects of your like I say, sort of day-to-day life, of your well-being, which is where we're going to start for today, really. We're going to look at sleep, because sleep is an absolutely massive area that I feel really, really gets overlooked when it comes to our own well-being, especially our mental well-being. But I don't think we give enough credit to how much it plays into our physical well-being as well. I'm sure we've all had those days where it feels like your head's made out of lead and it doesn't want to leave the pillow, or the mattress is velcroed stuck to your back. We've all had days like that, and those days they are a little bit harder to get going and to maybe do the things that you need to do, or sometimes even just the extra things that you don't need to do. It's not a work deadline. It's not go pick the kids up from school, which is why, especially on days like those days, you're much more likely to not do the exercise that you've planned in, because who hasn't had that day where they tell themselves, I'll do that tomorrow? Do you know what I mean?
No,
I'll do legs day tomorrow. I'll do this walk tomorrow. I'll go for this run tomorrow. And then it sort of bleeds into your food as well. Oh, I'll meal prep tomorrow. I can't be bothered to cook tonight. I'll just order something, or I'll blast something quickly in the microwave.
Yeah.
Or so those, however many hours you're sleeping, ideally sort of between 7 and 8, those hours are setting you up for the following, the rest of your 24-hour block, aren't they? The following 16 hours or the rest of your day, however long that's going to be. And if you're not getting good sleep quality, there's only so much you're going to be able to get out of those hours that you are awake. So when it comes to sleep, there's a lot of different things that we can do to sort of improve sleep quality. But before we dive in, I just want to get a bit of an idea where we are with, of course, your own sleeping patterns. I don't know about you, buddy, but I struggle to sleep when it's warmer like it is right now.
Oh, yeah.
A night, both windows open and like just still struggling to get off some nights when it's warm.
Mm-hmm. I think that they say like the optimum temperature for sleeping is like a degree or two under your core body heat. That's like the perfect temperature for your body to sleep. So I think when it is hot, it does it is definitely harder to sleep. It's more uncomfortable.
Just tossing and turning, chucking the duvet up. You've got the windows open, so every single car that goes past louder. Every sound that's outside seems louder. And you just there looking at the ceiling some nights as well. So yeah, I struggle to sleep when it's warm. And one of our learners has actually had a lot of experience with bad sleep and poor sleep patterns and stuff like that. And he's actually passed on quite a lot of advice to myself as well. I don't know whether he's going to get into the chat at any point today. We might get a little bit of a celebrity appearance from him if he's going to pop in. But like I say, stuff like you say, trying to maybe lower the temperature in the room if you can. Thinking about how thick your quilt is actually on top of you as well. True. Have you got have you still got the old winter tog duvet on?
I do.
If you remember to switch it across to you,
needs to get changed.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Yeah, I mean, if you're not going to change it during a heat wave, leave it on. Just leave it on year round, mate. Just leave it on. And then we could do other stuff like, of course, limiting screen time before bed as well.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Of course, not only is it extra stimulation and it's just giving your body something to sort of react to, your brain's working. And you might actually, I know you're a little bit more of a techie than I am, buddy, so you might know the science behind this a little bit more. The idea of the light on the screen disrupting your melatonin and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of screens have like blue screen options now.
I was just about to say, yeah, I think that at the least, if you still want to use electronics before bed, I think that there's a blue screen filter on a lot of phones. And a lot of tablets, you name it, and it's definitely good to put that on because it's something to do with the blue screen that can kind of affect your melatonin and hyperstimulate you really. So I think that but as you're saying, it's probably best about 30 minutes before bed to not use any electronics. If you kind of maybe read or something in that time, or what I like to do is I like to close my eyes, I'll put my headphones on, I'll put a podcast on like very quietly, and I'll just sit and listen to our audio book. There's like
before bed, wind down.
Yeah, but it's funny because like there's some audiobooks I've bought and I think that I probably listened to about 5 minutes of it, but I fell asleep every night listening to it. So it's like there's like a couple history ones that I've got, and it's like interesting, but the guy's voice is so monotone, it's like a lullaby. So it's just like I can never get past the first 5 minutes before I'm just like falling asleep. It's like
class, man. That'll do it. Never mind any lullabies or anything like that. Just stick one of them on. I'm a nightmare with audiobooks because I'll fall asleep listening to them. like you say, and then like you're scrubbing through the next day trying to find where you were, like down to the minute. Can I remember this bit? Can I remember this bit? But of course, you can get some. I remember when I was a kid, I had CDs. In fact, going back even longer than that, I'm going to show my age. I had cassettes, mate. I had cassettes.
Nice.
It was the Harry Potter series on audiobook read by Stephen Fry.
I was just about to say Stephen Fry did it. I remember that.
Do you know what? You can get some amazing celebrity voiceovers now. You know, Stephen Fry is amazing. If nobody's recruited Morgan Freeman to do one by now, somebody's missed a trick.
Definitely.
You know, David Attenborough could do one all day long, and I could listen to him and he'd relax us. But there are so many good, like you say, sort of voiceovers, narrators, however you want to put it out there, in so many different genres as well. So we can look at stuff like audiobooks, or like you mentioned a second ago, but even a podcast. Do you know what I mean? Just stick a podcast on, and even when you're listening to like the audio, of course, you can maybe. I would say you can even switch off a little bit more than reading a book, because you can actually shut your eyes and just listen to what's going on. You're not actually scanning the page. I'm sure that scanning the page and reading probably contributes to your eyes getting tired and that natural sort of closing of them anyway, because I know lots of people that'll read before bed, and you know, maybe sometimes even nod off with a book on their chest, you know. So there are different ways that we can wind down. It doesn't need to necessarily be sitting and scrolling on your phone and stuff like that. But like you say, if that is something that you feel like you need to do for whatever reason, or even you forgot to set alarms and you need to go back on and do a couple of bits, you can like turn on that blue light setting, which is meant to not disrupt your hormones pretty much, just as much before you try and go to bed, and of course helping you sort of ease up and slow down for the day. Caffeine's a huge one as well. When I've had clients over the years, I'm saying to them, how are you sleeping? You know, we've got your exercise sorted, we've had a good look at your nutrition. Now we can dig a little bit deeper and we can look at sleep. What's going on with your sleep? Oh, Rob, I'm not sleeping very well. I can't get to sleep before midnight on a night, and then I'm tossing and turning, then I'm up at 5 for work. I'm getting 5 hours a night maybe. And then like I say to them, okay, so what do you drink? Coffee? Yeah. Okay, so what time do you stop drinking coffee? Oh, I don't have a cutoff point. Okay, that's what we need to think about then. So on average, of course, everybody's different. Everybody's tolerance is going to be different. I feel like I can drink a coffee and it not touch me now, because I like coffee that much, you know. And I, over lockdown, have had to cut down. And I was saying, like, I'm not running around the gym floor all day every day. I'm not finishing work at 9-10 o'clock and locking the gym and then coming home and starting to cook me tea and stuff like that, you know. So me and Alex, me and my partner transitioned onto decaf.
It's good shit,
and
man.
it has been so much better, mate. It is so much better.
It's lush, actually. Like
it is. Like, I enjoy the taste of a coffee.
You
know. And I can understand the
exactly.
idea of, look, if you're not having the caffeine in a coffee, well, maybe don't have a coffee, and that's fair enough. If you don't particularly like the taste of a coffee, but my sleep quality's been better.
But
my energy's been better. You know, not getting that jittery sort of feeling.
Exactly, man. Well, that's it. I told you, like, I switched to decaf teas and coffees after a certain point, and it's like in the morning I always have a coffee, like, no matter what, like a proper coffee. Like, that's because it sets me up for the day. But then after that, you know, I can do a second coffee now and then. You know, sometimes if I'm going to be particularly active that day, I feel like I'll work off I'll work it off. But I think that if otherwise 2 coffees can be too much for me and I'll be awake, or 3 coffees definitely be too much and I'll be wide awake. But as I say, as it gets into the afternoon, a decaf and it's fine, it does the trick and tastes nice, you know what I mean?
That's it. You know, when it is impacting or potentially in this case benefiting your sleep and your sleep quality, you know, that is always something that I would recommend thinking about. You know, they reckon this is the collective there's been research done somewhere down the line that recommends that caffeine is going to stay in your system for about 6 hours and be active in your system for about 6 hours. So I would always say to people, at the latest, make you cut off coffee and caffeine, maybe sort of 6 o'clock tea time, if not 5. 4 o'clock's even better. Of course, it depends what time you need to go to bed and what your 24-hour looks like. If you go to bed at 10 o'clock, I wouldn't recommend cutting off at 6. I would say aim closer to 4 o'clock, and thinking about what's going in there as well. And sugar as well. Sugar's kind of right up there with caffeine as a stimulant as well. So to say, right, I'm not gonna have that. I'm not gonna have any coffee after 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, but I'm gonna sit down and snack on like a full packet of cookies at 10 o'clock at night. You're gonna have that same rush of energy. Definitely. You might crash off of that a little bit sooner, and you might end up sleeping. But then it's not a natural sleep. Your sleep's not going to be quite as good if you've sugar crashed into it. I've had sugar crash naps, and you don't feel great after waking up from a sugar crash nap. I mean,
if you're drinking fizzy drinks as well, you're topping up your caffeine and you're getting all the sugar in, so it's like it's a double whammy in that situation. So
yeah, definitely. Like you say, you could be someone who puts 2, 3, 4. I've heard 4 sugars in a coffee. So you can be getting both, and then you go to bed and you're tossing and turning, thinking, why can't I get to sleep? Why can I not get to sleep again? What's going on? What's the chances? Another night I can't get to sleep. When really, it's all these little different bits that we're doing day to day. That if we start analysing, we can maybe, not eliminate, but just handle a little bit better. If you do have a bit of a sweet tooth, and if your diet allows you and your exercise allows you a little bit of a snack, try and get it earlier on in the day. When you can potentially then burn it off, rather than, like I say, jam yourself full of sugar right before you're going to go to sleep and be pretty much motionless for 6, 7, 8 hours.
I don't know how much. I'm sure there's some science though behind if you eat and obviously it's going to affect your sleep quality, but is it also going to affect how it's metabolized if you're eating that much sugar at night? Because I don't know how much is fact and fiction with that, but I know that a lot of people say that you shouldn't eat certain meals before bed. Is that just kind of like how much fact is there to that, or how much is that like does that actually not really apply?
I would say it depends what your following morning looks like.
Fair enough.
If you're going to be exerting a lot of energy the next morning, then you're probably going to utilize that. It's this idea of it's almost kind of like the idea of like sort of preloading, isn't it? Mm-hmm. like an athlete might eat a load of pasta the night before a big run, mm-hmm. or something like that. It's getting it all in. These athletes don't wake up and they've put on like half a stone because they've had a load of carbs before bed, but at the same time, they're utilizing that energy the next morning. And most importantly, I would probably say it's not a habit. Like I say, everything in a vacuum, everything in an isolated event is probably no problem at all.
Yeah.
The problem is when that starts to become every night, every other night. So it's a case of habit forming and not doing stuff as maybe just like a one-off from time to time. But yeah, it would also depend on how active you can be and are planning on being the next morning. I have had nights where I've thought to myself, do you know what? I've got a big leg session to do in the morning because I've got clients from 10 till 6 or whatever it is. I'm having a big leg session now. I know that I'm not a big eater on a morning, so it was like, right, I need to get those calories in now. So for me, that worked really well. So I load up the night before, I could have a bit of a cheat meal or something that was a little bit naughtier, knowing that I was going to burn it off the next morning.
Yeah,
if my next morning looked like, oh man, from 7 o'clock I open up the gym and I'm back to back till 12, I'm still going to be active because I'm going to be with clients, but I'm not going to be training. I'm not going to be exerting quite as much energy. So that would affect my diet from that point. I can understand the logic behind, look, if you're going to be sedentary for the next 8 hours, try not to just eat a load of carbs before bed or a load of sugar before bed. If you do, make sure that you're burning it off the next morning. That's where I was sort of, it could be referred to as fasted cardio. And if you've never heard fasted cardio or fasted exercise before, it's pretty much doing your exercise or your cardio without a meal beforehand, really, or in a little bit of a fasted state without much on your stomach. Usually first thing on the morning, because it's the longest break, we tend to go without food overnight while we're asleep. And it is this idea of, if you then start to ask your body to do more than it has fuel for, it will start to dip into stored fat and, of course, reserves rather than the food that you've just eaten. So that is where we could say like, okay, if we want to be doing fasted cardio in the morning, or if we're doing some fasted cardio in the morning, we maybe could have a little bit more tonight because we know that we are burning it off. But if we want to get the most out of our fasted cardio, every calorie we have now is going to start burning tomorrow morning before the body dips into stored fat.
Yeah.
So again, it depends very much on the person and what their sort of desired outcomes are. Again, if you are trying to put a little bit of size on, lift heavier weights, maybe gain a little bit of mass, gain a little bit of lean muscle, I would always make sure that you're sort of overfed than underfed. I wouldn't worry about this idea of, oh, I can't have carbs before I go to bed, because chances are at some point tomorrow you're going to use those calories to, if not start to rebuild muscle, to fuel a good workout that's going to start to sort of initiate that protein synthesis and get your body working in that sort of sense. But like I say, your sleep, I wouldn't say it factors in too much. Again, it really does come down to the individual. So again, don't worry too much about. I've always said that what you eat across a day is more important than when you eat it.
Yeah, and that's really good. I really like that, actually.
Get the content down first, and then you can start to get fancy and start to play around with your timings a little bit and really try and optimize. You can try and optimize all you like. If your intake of food for the day doesn't look right, you're not optimizing it. It can't be done.
You hear like ridiculous stuff, and I think that not a lot of people do this, but I think that it was like, I remember it was really like a load of people were talking about it at the time, but like Hugh Jackman like setting his alarm for like 3 a.m. to get up and have like a protein shake and then go back to bed. And like you hear about like experimental kind of stuff like that, and I don't know how useful that actually is, but like I don't know, I just remember hearing about that a lot.
It's not a bad idea. Like, I, truth be told, did used to set alarms if I was working in the gym late and didn't have any sessions booked in the next morning. I would set alarms to make sure I got up, had some food, and then I would do the same. I would either go back to bed or just have an easy morning and probably end up having a nap at some point, to sort of make up for it, just to make sure I was getting that food in, because I'm not a massive eater. And I realized if the time that I'm not awake isn't getting enough food in, then, I need to start trying to do stuff like that and trying to make sure that, okay, it was more to set myself a good eating routine more than anything. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm up at that time and I'm eating a meal, whether I'm up for work or not, really. So again, it depends. It's just making sure that you're then not getting the negative trade-off of your sleep is compromised.
Yeah, exactly.
Because then you're getting an extra meal in to help your body be optimal, but you're breaking up sleep, which is probably, I would say, arguably more important than those 30 grams of protein first thing in the morning or something like that,
And I mean that, me and you've both done weight gainer before, and that you could buy, which is just basically like, it's like a protein shake times 10. It's just like a bunch of calories basically in like a big sludge in a milkshake. But
and you'll probably pay a fortune for it as well.
Exactly. I mean, the idea
Always
that
expensive.
the idea that, I mean, I know there is some people obviously who just have like a metabolism where they can eat anything and not gain weight, but it's like laughable for me to now think about the fact that I used to do weight gainer, and I mentioned to you before, because it's just like so easy for me to gain weight, because as I get older, my metabolism is just slowing down, and it just actually naturally happens. It's just a natural process.
Of course it does.
And like now, it's like, it's crazy that if I did something like that now, I would be huge, man. But like, not in a good way. Not like I wouldn't be like Jack. I would be like Eric Cartman. But like, it's just crazy to think, man. But my initial point is just that I remember when I used to do that, and there's only so many hours in the day, and there's not enough hours between meals. And then it was when I was still living at home, so my dad would make me like a huge meal, and I couldn't even eat it, or I'd feel sick because I'm so full of this like milkshake that like I'm not even eating proper meals. So I think that's like, it defeats the object, if you're trying to bulk, but you trade in nutrition for like supplements, then it's just ridiculous. So
yeah, and in that case, you're trading nutrition for calories, really.
Yeah, exactly.
At the end of the day, like, there will only probably be like, so in your whey protein, which is designed to be really low calorie, and what me and Daniel are on about, which is a mass gainer, which is designed to deliver as many calories as possible. The protein content is about the same. The protein content is going to be just about the same. So the extra calories tend to come from sugars, really. You know, it's a load of extra calories and a load of other stuff packed in. And I tell you what, it's not nutrient dense. Do you know what I mean? It's not chock full of vitamins and minerals and stuff like that. It's just really not. My advice would always be, rather than paying like the extra 20 quid for the mass gainer, just get the whey protein that's designed to deliver essentially protein and not very much else to keep your calories low. And then if you want that to be a 500 calorie shake, add some fruit, add some some yogurt, add some I used to put oats in quite a lot. And then at least you know those extra calories that you're getting, you're in control of them and you know what's in there.
You see, like on the box of all the mass gainer, it's like 50 grams of protein per serving. It's like, wait until you see the serving. It's a jug. It's like an actual jug. When you get it out, it's like the serving size is like an actual jug. So it's like, well, if you had a normal protein shake that says 19 grams of protein per serving, it's the same, but this because then you get the serving size out and it's that big. Compared to like that big. So it's
would just do 2 scoops.
Exactly.
You would just have a 2-scoop shake and you've got as much protein as the mass gainer without trying to get like 2 liters of like cement into your stomach.
It is like drinking cement.
Mate, I tried exactly the same thing. And again, I don't know whether you guys have ever tried these sort of supplements, protein shakes, weight gainer, any of that sort of thing. But I actually had to split mine. It was 1,000 calories a serving.
Yeah.
And it was exactly the same as you. You could feel it sloshing around. I had no appetite afterwards. This is someone who's not a big eater anyway. I split mine. I needed to have, like you say, the carton or the little shaker was like that. It was absolutely ridiculous. And you were meant to have 4 of them, which pretty much filled a pint glass. So I split mine. I had 2 in the morning, 2 on an evening, and I still didn't feel great for it because all those extra calories that I was getting was sugar. Really, at the end of the day, and of course, I was a little bit young, naive at the time, and I saw weight gainer. Okay, I want to put size on. That's for me, and paid probably another 20 quid for the tub for the privilege. And I don't think I even finished the bag. I don't think I could finish the bag. Whereas, really, for me, it would have been better to look at just trying to get more calories into meals. Just before we dive into this quiz that we're going to do, I was because I was working in the gym, I was obviously eating a lot around other trainers, around clients, around gym members. Of course, trying to set the example of like eat clean, eat good for well-being, for health and stuff like that. I just wasn't eating enough. You know, if I was having like chicken, broccoli, and rice 3 times a day, that's maybe 1,200 calories. Really, do you know what I mean? Like, it's so clean. There's no sauce in there. There's no fats where you're getting all of those calories. And that is something that we're going to look at a little bit next week, you know, looking at food labels, looking at nutrition and stuff like that, how we pick out what's actually in the food that we're going to eat.
Just
go on, bud.
Last note, on protein shakes, like what you were saying, dude, that's what I started to do was I'd have 1 scoop, 2 scoop maybe if you want to go big time, and then mix it with milk, extra calories there, more protein. Banana, some nutrition from that. You're getting some vitamins in there, but also more calories because quite a bit of calories in a banana. Peanut butter, so like obviously good fats and more protein again. And then also like a tiny bit of like dark chocolate just for flavor. Like
I was just about to say some dark chocolate chips or something.
And it was just that's lush. And then there you go, as you say, you put your calories right up and you've got more nutrition in there. And I know people who mix with oats and stuff. I never really like that, but it's something people do. So that's probably like a texture thing as much as anything else, you know. And like you say, each to their own. There's all sorts that you can put in. There's all different ways you can get these extra calories. I mean, and that's before you even start looking into the idea of mixing protein powder into food. Into your oats, making cookies, making cakes. We could sit here all day and talk about stuff like that. We could maybe even look to do another, maybe even a little one-off session to do with supplementation. Maybe it's linked in a little bit more with the nutritional side of things and just bring those together a little bit because it's so easy to go into a fitness store or even start looking online and it chucks different options at you. And again, you know, we're maybe in a position where you might have saved yourself a couple of £100 from not going to the gym for the last year. You might be thinking, okay, I'm going to treat myself to a supplement or something like that. Where do I start? Where do I start? You know, because I used to have people come into the gym, they'd look at the back shelf and they'd say, okay, tell me what everything does. I'm like, well, I will,
But for what you need right now, you're not on any supplements. I can tell
Yeah.
you from your diet, you don't get enough protein. Just get a protein shake. Do you
Yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean? Just get the protein
Same, man.
powder. You don't need your aminos. You don't necessarily need a pre-workout and all of that sort of thing. Get
Yeah.
protein in you, and then we can go from there. So again, you guys let us know. You know, if that is something that you feel as though you struggle with when it comes to looking at fitness supplements and stuff like that, and all the options that are out there, we can maybe put a little bit of something together, and I'll just even just like a Q&A where I'll sit and go through similar like we sort of do anyway, you know, where I'll maybe just put some stuff from my experience working with them, and maybe there's a couple of little tips and pointers and stuff like that, because again, it's something that I've helped some of the learners in with the drop-ins, because like I say, there's so much option out there. It can be a little bit overwhelming. So if that's something that you're struggling with or something that you'd like to know a little bit more about, by all means do let me know, and I'll try and get something put together to just hopefully make all of that a little bit less daunting when we start looking at getting extra, usually protein in, because I would say that probably 75% of people that I've worked with over the years don't get enough protein.
Yeah.
Men and women. You know, you could essentially, and I know we've gone on a little bit of a nutrition tangent, but it can't be overstated enough, really. You know, if you get up and you have a bowl of cereal for breakfast, and then for your dinner you have like a cheese sandwich and a packet of crisps, you're getting to tea time before you've had any real significant amount of protein.
True.
You know, and at most your body's probably going to take about 50 grams in one sitting and be able to use it. Now, for a lot of us, we need upwards of 100 grams a day. So that is at least 2 meals pretty much where we're maxing out how much protein your body can take. And that's difficult.
To tie that in, you know, with sleep as well, it's like if you've had a hard workout, then you have terrible night's sleep, and then the next day you don't get any protein. It's like your body's like, it's not had any time to recover. So it's like, and you think, oh, I feel like crap. It's because, you know, you need it. It's the, you know, I can't remember what it is, but, you know, people say working out's only a slight percentage of your overall fitness. It's the other half is in the nutrition. It's in your sleep as well. So it's,
yeah, definitely. And of course, just the day-to-day stuff that you're doing that isn't strictly exercise, I guess, you know, what we call non-exercise activity stuff, like whipping the hoover around, dusting, standing and doing the dishes, putting the washing out. It's all movement. It all burns calories, and at the end of the day, you're using muscle the whole time. So we need protein and we need sleep, because those two things go together and work really well together to help you recover. And sleep is, of course, one half of that equation, and if our sleep quality is down, we're not going to be recovering as well as we can, regardless how much protein you're getting. So that said, guys, grab yourself a pen and a piece of paper, and we're going to do a little bit of a sleep quiz and see how much we know about the old 40 winks. So yeah, we'll have a look through. So what we'll do, I'll work through and we'll ask sort of each question. They're all multiple choice. Just make a note, and then of course when we get to the end, you can of course take as much time as you want with each answer, or guessing each answer, and then before we come back through and blast all the answers out, you could of course pause it there if you want, take as much time as you want, and then we'll just check those answers as we go through. Or just a bit of fun than anything else. See where we're at, and there's a couple of little fun facts in there as well. So yeah, guys, grab yourself a pen and a piece of paper, and we'll dive in, and we will, like I say, we've got 14 questions to do based on sleep. And I don't know about you, buddy, but the older I get, the more I just enjoy me sleep. Like I don't know if that's just like a natural aging thing or what, but like just the idea of, oh, do you know what, I could do a nap today, or like the idea of like, mate, the first couple of months that we had the puppy, or the first couple of weeks especially that we had the puppy, when Woody came, it was a case of he goes to bed about 9 o'clock, and I was putting him in his bed, looking at my bed, thinking I could just go to my bed now at 9 o'clock. Like I really could. And there was nights that we did, and it was a case of, if he's going to be asleep at 1 and then 3 and then 5 needing a wee, I need to go to sleep now, essentially, really, to be able to function tomorrow. And of course, it catches up with you as well, doesn't it? You know, the more sleep you don't get, you have 6 hours one night, 4 hours the next. It compounds, doesn't it? You know, it's not just a case of like, oh, I can just write that off and get away with those 3 hours sleep that I didn't get last night. You know, your body remembers. Remembers.
When I sleep, like now, I never used to be like, I could stay up as long as I want when I was a kid. But now it's like, it gets to a point. And if I'm watching a movie or whatever, and if it gets late enough, I just start falling asleep. Like I literally, I can't keep my eyes open.
Yeah.
Like I just start drifting off, and like, so like I have to sleep. Like I say, I can't not because I just like I'm falling asleep. So it's
could be a really good film, could be an awesome film.
Yeah.
And you know what? It gets like I say, when he goes to bed 9 o'clock, me and Alex, we don't even kid ourselves and say let's put the film on now, because we know 9 o'clock we're not seeing the end of it.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not going to see the end of it. We'll be watching it in two stints. So it's like we chuck an episode or something on, and we're lucky if we make the end of it, But again, that's realizing, the older and wiser, realizing just how important your sleep is in just functioning day to day. And like I say, these next 14 questions might just really highlight just how important our sleep is. So if we are ready then, guys, we may as well be, because you can pause it whenever you want. So we should be ready by the time we get to this point. We'll go to question 1 then, please, buddy, if you don't mind. First slide. So how many times a day is your body programmed to feel sleepy? You might be sitting there thinking, well, like about 24 usually, like every hour on the hour I think, oh, do you know what I could do with a little snooze? Especially, maybe you have gone back to work recently and things have been a little bit more busy, a little bit more hectic. Maybe, that is something that we need to think about as we go back towards normality. How do we fit enough sleep into that, when we are maybe used to having a little bit more time in the day. But how many times a day is your body programmed to feel sleepy? So 1, 2, 3, or 4. Okay, buddy, we'll go question 2 then, please, mate. So question 2, which group of people or which group of individuals needs up to 13 hours sleep per night? And again, hands up, that has been me some nights. I'm sure we all have those days where we think, you know what, I need exactly 13 hours sleep tonight. Sometimes you just need 13 hours sleep, guys, when you've had one of them days. Like, so we've got... Go, bud.
Like Goku in the cryogenic chamber, like he just like totally just like zoned in, like just resting for like days, like. That's
it, yeah, and it'd be like LeBron James in his cryo chamber as well. They reckon he's got one as well, yeah. So we've got preschoolers, school-age children, adolescents or adults, and this is for 13 hours of sleep per night advised. Okay. So remember, guys, if we are moving a little bit quick and you do want to pause it at any point, then by all means do take your time and just catch up with us afterwards. Okay, so question 3, adults need less sleep as they get older. True or false? What do we reckon, guys? True or false? Adults need more sleep as they grow older. Okay, question 4. Next slide, please, bud. So about half your sleeping hours are spent dreaming. True or false? So here's an interesting one. About half your sleeping hours are spent dreaming. And just before we move on, interesting thing to do with dreaming. I didn't realize that dreaming and that state of sleep is pretty much essential to our health. There were studies done a long time ago. I remember reading about this when I was doing the psychology in college, and what they did, they kept people hooked up to a machine for like brain activity, so that when certain parts of the brain kicked in, they could see that these parts of the brain were engaged, so they could gauge when people were dreaming. They could identify when people were dreaming, and what they did, they would wake people up before they got to that state of dreaming. So they might have 6 hours sleep, and then they start dreaming, and it's like, right, we're going to wake this person up now. And that person almost displayed signs that they hadn't been asleep at all, almost as though like their body just couldn't function without that dreaming phase of sleeping. It was almost as though the body recorded no sleep at all. And this person's physical and mental health really started to deteriorate until they let him go through this cycle of sleep that allows dreaming as well.
That's crazy. So, and I mean, even phones, great smartwatches, they can monitor, not sure how effectively, but they can monitor sleep quality now. So it's like, sometimes when you do,
really good point.
You'll find you slept 8 hours and you're like, how come I feel like I haven't slept? It happens very occasionally. And you'll notice that your sleep quality is really low. And just going back to caffeine, sometimes caffeine can cause that. If you're still feeling jittery, your body can never go down to that like REM sleep, like rapid eye movement sleep, which is the deep sleep, which is where you're most rested.
Yeah, definitely. That's really interesting as well. Like these different cycles of sleep. What do we reckon, guys? Half of these sleeping hours spent dreaming, true or false? So we know it's important. We know just how important this phase of sleep is. But do we think we're doing it half the time we're asleep? Okay, buddy. We'll go question 5 then. So, which of the following is the most common cause of nightmares? So, eating before going to bed, excessive alcohol consumption, stress and anxiety, or illness with a fever. So I would say that all 4 of those things, sorry, could affect your sleep. But what do we think is the most common cause of nightmares? And while we're on the subject of nightmares, I've never experienced night terrors, sleep paralysis, anything like that. But that has got to be one of the most jarring things that can happen to a person. Like, it's really got to be like.
Yeah, my dad gets night terrors, and I've never had them, but I've had a sleep paralysis, like only minorly though. I've never had it like intensely, but I've had sleep paralysis, and it is pretty intense and horrifying. Like when you're awake, but you just can't move your body. Like it's
So
like
is it this sense of like your eyes are open, but your brain is essentially like your body still thinks you're asleep, but your eyes and your brain are sort of active.
well, I've heard different stories from different people because I've only,
Okay.
from my experience, what I had was that I was awake, but my body hadn't woke up, but I had my eyes open and I could look around the room, but I couldn't move. And then you get really anxious,
Okay.
and then it kind of like you
Hmm.
actually
Well, of
do, and then
course.
you actually properly wake up. That was my experience, but then from other people I heard that they can't even open their eyes, so their eyes are closed, but their brain's kind of awake,
Oh
but like they
wow.
can't move the body. So that's
Wow.
what I'd heard from other people. So I guess people have
Yeah.
like
So
experience
everybody's
it differently.
experience might be different. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So when you've had it, it's been more a case of like it's as you're waking up, and sooner or later it sort of
like
clicks,
last
and the rest of you sort of catches up.
for like me, it's been like for like a minute or something. If like I woke up from a nightmare, but I
Yeah.
haven't like fully woken up, and like I'm just like looking and I'm kind of can't move, but then it kind of stopped. But
Hmm. Hmm.
that's I
Yeah.
only had it a couple times, but yeah, from other people, they have it like worse, where it's like the eyes are kind of closed, but like they can like they're aware that they're awake, which is
Yeah,
pretty crazy.
yeah, it's got to be so surreal. Like it really must
The,
be.
the,
Um,
some of the worst nightmares that I ever had is where it's been like that it's like I've walked to the right. Well, I had a nightmare one time. This is years ago. Like I walked to the toilet and I had a heart attack in the bathroom, but it felt so real because everything in the environment was like real. And
mhm,
like
mhm.
so, they're
Yeah,
the
yeah,
worst nightmares when it's like something that's like it's because it's quite even in the back of your mind. Sometimes you kind of know that it's a nightmare if it's in like a large place, but like if it's just like
yes,
in your house, it's so much worse and scary.
yeah, yeah. And then like you'll sometimes wake up afterwards and realize it was my house, but it wasn't my house. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? It
yeah,
just it,
yeah.
it, it just felt like my house. But yeah, some can be so real. I remember as a kid having recurring nightmares, like the same
Oh God, yeah,
almost the same nightmare over and over again. Not necessarily every night, but just recurring. Just this nightmare would just keep popping up, and I think it's absolutely fascinating. And I don't know the science behind it, but the fact that there are people out there that do sort of dream analysis and stuff like that, and like if you're having nightmares and stuff like that, like these trained specialists can use that to start to get an idea what's going on sort of buried within your psyche and
yeah,
your subconscious to
yeah,
maybe
yeah.
some issues that might be sort of gnawing away at the inside and causing a little bit of uncertainty and maybe it's triggering these nightmares. I think it's so interesting that that's almost like a study in itself, the study
Hmm.
of dreams. But what do we reckon, guys? What is the most common cause of nightmares? Because, like I say, I think all of those on there would affect your sleep
Hmm.
at some point. But what is the most likely to cause nightmares, do we think? Okay, question 6. So, sleepwalking may include other complex activities such as driving a car, moving furniture, eating, or all of the above. What do we reckon? And again, I've to my knowledge, I've never done it. I've never been a sleepwalker. Um, but again, that must be pretty. I'd say a pretty jarring experience. But at the same time, I know that there's this whole, again, I don't know how true it is that you're not meant to wake somebody up if they are sleepwalking.
Yeah.
I think I would probably just not take the risk if I came across somebody sleepwalking, you know. I don't know how true that actually is. And same again, I don't know if any of you guys out there have ever sort of been told that you've been sleepwalking or anything like that. But the fact that some of the stuff you can get up to, really, really interesting. Definitely. So what do we reckon in terms of complex activities? So we've got driving a car, moving furniture, eating, or all of the above. There we go. Okay, cool. Question 7. So number 7, driving while drowsy is similar to driving while intoxicated or under the influence. True or false? What do we reckon? Is driving tired the same in effect as driving after a couple of bevies? What do we think? True or false? Okay, guys. Question 8. If you fall behind, or if you fall a few hours behind in the amount of sleep your body needs, you can never make it up. True or false? I mean, Daniel might have given you a little bit of a sneaky clue at this one earlier on. Something we were talking about. Do you feel as though your body leaves you in a position where you can never make up the sleep that you've missed, or doesn't need to make up the sleep that you've missed? Okay, question 9. Oh, mate, this one always tickles me, always cracks us up. Question 9. Which of the following can result from not getting enough sleep? Diarrhea, blurred vision, low-grade fever, or all of the above? What do we think? What can result from not getting enough sleep? Oh, man, I know full well that Daniel can vouch for one of them, apparently. Oh, man, quality cracks us up every time. Okay, guys, question 10. So not getting enough sleep can lead to weight gain. True or false? So just outright, directly not getting enough sleep can lead to weight gain. What do we think? True or false? Okay, question 11. Just got a few more to do. In fact, yeah, there's a couple more to do. Sleep disorders and chronic sleep loss have been linked to which of the following? So heart disease, stroke, high blood pressure, or all of the above? What do we think? So sleep disorder and chronic sleep loss. So pretty much anything that's regularly and sort of consistently interfering with your sleep, and making so you can't get a good night's sleep, you know, be it sort of external environmental factors, you know, or it could just be insomnia or stress, anxiety, all of that sort of thing. So any of these things, when you're not getting enough sleep, has it been linked to heart disease, stroke, high blood pressure, or all of the above? Okay, guys, getting there. So question 12. Insomnia is considered chronic when a person has difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep at least 2 nights a week for a month or longer. Yeah, so a lot of specifics in there in terms of sort of from a health service perspective. Insomnia is considered to be chronic when a person has difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep for 2 nights a week, at least 2 nights a week, for a month or longer. True or false? What do we think? Is that insomnia, and is that classed as chronic insomnia? Okay, guys, and the last one that we've got, question 13. Sleep apnea is characterized by pauses in breathing while you sleep. Yeah, so literally that, if you've never come across it before, this idea of sleep apnea, this almost like phenomenon really, is characterized by pauses in your breathing while you sleep. So these pauses can occur how many times per hour, do we think? So breathing, pauses in your breath while you're asleep, how many times per hour? Up to 5, up to 10, up to 20, or 30 times or more? What do we think? And that one was the last one, guys. So again, pause it there if you feel like you need to take a little bit more time. We'll go back to question 1 and just start to work through one answer at a time. And like I say, just be interesting to see how we did. So if we can go back to question 1, please, buddy. Spot on, mate. Just because the stream on my screen's a couple of seconds behind. I never know never know whether you've already gone or not. Okay, guys. So question 1: how many times a day is your body programmed to feel sleepy? Is actually 2 times a day. Yeah, so B for that one. So at sort of midnight, at sort of tired time. Then of course we've got mid-afternoon, and I don't know if again everybody sort of experiences, but I know that certain cultures, of course, I know that Spain, of course, go and have a siesta in the afternoon, don't they?
Yeah, they
when
do,
when it gets a little bit too hot as well. And I mean, I'm sure we can all vouch. After we've had a bit of sun the last couple of days, the sun does take it out of you as well,
sure,
and you could definitely do with that little afternoon nap. But yeah, it's almost built into your body, you know. Almost sort of like we've got, of course, on an evening when we wind down, but then we've got almost like between sort of 1 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I know you've mentioned before, buddy, as well. You know, that's the sort of the time that you might go for your second coffee.
Yeah.
You know, maybe just after dinner. Maybe you've got your dinner on your stomach and you are feeling a little bit sluggish, a little bit lethargic. You've got to get back into work for the rest of the day. Yeah. Because of course it is natural, you know. It is built into our cycle. That might be when we talk about us as a sort of hunter-gatherer society back in the day, and our roots, you know. That might be a little bit of a rest after a hard morning's hunt or something like that, you know. If they've been out and about, maybe they're coming back, they're celebrating their kill, having a little bit of dinner, and then, you know, they probably go back and do the same again on the evening and go out sort of scavenging and looking for food again. So it's sort of inbuilt into us to have that natural sort of lull in the afternoon. So it's not always just the fact that, you know, you could have slept better the night before. Sometimes your body is just naturally programmed to feel a little bit less responsive and a little bit slower during those hours.
Yeah, definitely, Matt.
Yeah. So the first question was B. Just if we check on our answers, we go through. Question 2 was which group needs up to 13 hours of sleep per night? Preschoolers, school-age children, adolescents, or adults. And that one is actually preschoolers. So A for that one. Preschoolers being sort of almost the smallest on that list. So as a child, in this case a baby, I guess, really grows up to being full size into adulthood, the amount of sleep that they need is less and less and less. So a newborn is going to sleep probably about 18 hours a day.
Wow.
That is that phase where they're just sleeping poop machines, really. You know? and then, you know, they get a little bit older, and they're going to sleep less. But that is the stage, you know, this sort of preschool sort of area, and preschool sort of age. That is going to be where they're going to need, and it's advised that they get sort of up to 13 hours sleep per night. Then of course we get to sort of school age, where you're probably going to be needing 10 to 11 hours sleep a night. You know, I remember I would my bedtime would be, I'd be lights off at 10 o'clock. Yep. If not 9 o'clock, do you know what I mean? So I can very easily get 10, 11 hours sleep when I was at school. Okay. Then of course we get to being teenagers, with that a little bit older, and probably 9 to 10 hours sleep a night. Of course, I know teenagers stereotypically love their sleep anyway, and probably do normally get a little bit more sleep than that, especially as they go through certain hormonal changes and stuff like that. And then we get to adulthood, which is when we start to get into that bracket of, okay, we're going to advise sort of between 7 and 9 hours sleep a night, which is of course where we get the figure of 8 from, when we're talking sort of ideally. So yeah, the amount of sleep that we need as we get older does sort of come down up to the point of adulthood. What happens past there, we're going to talk about on the I think it's the next question. So if we can go to question 3, please, buddy. Adults need less sleep as they grow older. True or false? It might be easy to think that, okay, so they need less sleep as they're growing older from a baby. Of course they're going to need less sleep as they're getting older towards sort of middle age and stuff like that. But that's not actually the case. It's actually false that they need less sleep. Once we get to adulthood, ideally we need the same amount of sleep. that's 7 to 9 hours, 7 to 9 hours a night. It sort of drops off once we get to adulthood. Now I don't know about yourself, buddy, or people that you know when they've got sort of grandparents and stuff like that. They don't feels like they don't sleep as much.
Yeah.
You know, they might say, "Oh, I've been up since 5 o'clock this morning," and it's like, well, why? Why have you been up since 5 o'clock this morning? You know, and you don't need to be. But of course, that they maybe just like to start their day that way. Normally, it comes down to stuff like it's just harder for them to get a good sleep. You know, there maybe is a little bit easier to be disturbed by lights and noise.
I think,
maybe pain. Maybe
bladder
pain
as well. I think your bladder just naturally gets weaker when you're older. That's just a natural thing. So so
getting up during the night, interrupting your sleep, you know. I'm sure we've all done it where we wake up for whatever reason, and then you think, oh, well, I'm up now. I'm obviously not going to go back to sleep. I'll just get back up, you know. And like you say, it might just be something as little as needing the toilet as well, you know, that's going to be ultimately affecting your sleep quality. So again, like I've had clients over the years that thought it would be a good idea to not drink much water throughout the day, and then like right before bed try and slam their 2 liters in. It's like, excellent, you're getting enough water, that's really good, but you're now going to be up all night every night and you're not going to be getting the sleep. So the trade-off that you're going to get from being extra hydrated, you're probably not going to feel the benefit of.
It's like
you know,
I'm sure that Bart literally does that on an episode of The Simpsons so he can wake up on Christmas early.
Yes, he does.
Like loads of water.
So
it's like it's like an alarm clock basically to do something like that.
Yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah, actually, yeah, good shout, man, good shout. So yeah, of course, like Daniel says, as you get a little bit older, the elastin and the elasticity of your bladder naturally weakens and lessens. So of course, you do need to go to the toilet a little bit more often, and that of course is going to be the case through the night as well. So, although it seems as though an older person doesn't need as much sleep, you know. It's more just a case of if they can actually get it, you know, between rolling over and you've got aches and pains and niggles and stuff like that. Even then, you know, again, more likely to be disturbed by stuff like heat, temperature, lights, noises, and all of that as well. So, like I say, we do all need the same amount once we get to adulthood. It is just a case of if we can get it. And, you know, maybe these people have just done this for so long, they're just used to functioning on not as much sleep as they might need. You know, I'm sure they would feel better for getting a full night's sleep if they were lucky enough to get it, you know. Okay, guys, so question 4, half your sleeping hours are spent dreaming. What do we think? So that one was actually false. So on average, we only get about 2 hours. So we only get about, at most, I would say about 20%. Of our sleep is actually spent dreaming, which makes it even more amazing to think that that's possibly the part that our body gets the most benefit from. You know, you would think, like, if that's the case, like, why not just be in that phase of sleep 100% of the time you're asleep? Why not get 8 hours? Truth be told, I couldn't tell you why we don't and can't just settle straight into that sleep. I imagine it is just part of this natural sort of waking rhythm that we have, and we need to go through these other phases to get to that phase as well. You know, that's something that interests me to the point where I'd probably go away and try and look into that a little bit more and try and find out why we can't just get that much good sleep if that is the part of sleep that is most beneficial. But that's not to say that the other cycles of sleep don't play a role as well, you know, that we might suffer if we weren't getting. So that one is actually true. No, it's not. That one's actually false. Sorry. And it actually comes. It's closer towards 20%.
Right.
And usually comes towards the back end of your sleep as well. It's normally closer to when you wake up. So the earlier on in their sleep cycle somebody is, the less likely it is that they're actually dreaming at that point. Right, question 5 then. Question 5. So which of the following is the most common cause of nightmares? And we had eating before bed. You know, we've all heard don't eat cheese before bed, I'm sure. You'll have nightmares. Excessive alcohol consumption, stress and anxiety, or illness with a fever. And again, you know, we said that all of those are going to affect your sleep quality, but none more so than stress and anxiety. You know, not just the fact that I would say that out of those four things, that is probably the most prevalent within people. You know, that is probably what most of us are going to experience at some point in our life. You know, something that is stressful, something that causes a little bit of anxiety, you know, maybe a lot of anxiety depending on what it was. Maybe that is something that you have felt over the last year. You know, if you've been
I
in a
think
position
everybody
where
probably.
we've all been feeling a little bit more stressed and anxious than normal, you know, be it about what is going on or what could potentially happen. Maybe nightmares are a thing that you've experienced more over the last year than previously in your life, you know. But yeah, stress and anxiety is going to cause nightmares a lot more consistently than any of those other things. You know, they will affect your sleep quality, but yeah, stress and anxiety are a massive cause to nightmares, which is where what I'd mentioned earlier on about dream analysis can be so helpful, because somebody might be able to say to you, okay, these sorts of dreams are normally linked to something to do with career, relationships, whatever it might be, and you can potentially start to address them. And of course, if you're tackling the underlying symptoms, or the underlying factors, sorry, the symptoms will go away. And that is always the best way of dealing with things, I would say. Tackle the cause rather than masking the symptoms. You know, you could take a sleeping tablet and probably sleep loads better through. Have you dealt with the stress and anxiety that's causing the nightmares in the first place? Maybe it's not. You know, so that is something that we need to do as well. And that is where, of course, mental health plays such a big point as well, which is something that we do talk about quite a lot at Media Savvy.
Yeah.
And of course, probably worth mentioning before we move on, if that area is an aspect that you feel as though you do need a little bit of help and a little bit of support right now, by all means reach out to either myself or one of the guys in the office. We'll be happy to help or point you in the direction of a service that will be able to help. Probably, if that is the case, you know, where we feel as though we're not in a position where we can give you the support that you might need, we will help you identify and get in touch with the right body as well, you know. So definitely we are always here, and we've always got our finger on the pulse when it comes to mental health as well as physical health. It just so happens that physical health is what I've worked pretty much religiously with for the last 6 years, and can sit and rattle on about all morning pretty much. But yeah, you know, for as much as I emphasize physical health, you know, I'm aware that it is one side of a coin and the other side is your mental health as well. So it's important to talk about it. And like I say, in this case, addressing underlying issues, not just for the benefit of getting extra sleep and better sleep, but you know what, that's as good a reason as any to try and address and identify these issues that might be going on. So yeah, definitely. Okay, buddy. So we'll go question 6 then, please, mate. So question 6 was sleepwalking can include other complex activities such as, and we had driving a car, moving furniture, eating, or all of the above. And that one is actually all of the above.
Yeah.
You know, even driving a car has been documented in children as well. You know, in sort of kids. So it sort of suggests that not like they haven't driven the car off down the street, gone through the drive-through, put some petrol in and come home. Do you know what I mean? But they've, you know, maybe managed to get the car off the drive as well. Maybe he's dropped a handbrake or whatever. So you don't necessarily need to have this ingrained pattern or this habit of getting in the car and driving. You know, this is something that can just sort of come on through sleepwalking, you know, moving furniture around, eating. Of course, if you're sleepwalking and you're eating and nobody's telling you that you're sleepwalking and eating, you might be having a load of extra calories that you don't even know about. Do you know what I mean? You'd be like, oh, somebody every night's taking a bite out of this block of cheese in the fridge, and I'd love to know who it is. Do you know what I mean? That sort of thing. So any of these sleeping conditions, and sleep apnea is one that we're going to talk about in just a sec when we get back down to it, sleep apnea and sleepwalking. If you live by yourself, like a lot of people may do, and a lot of people do, and especially over the last year, you know, we haven't just been able to have somebody over to stay the night, and we haven't seen other people quite so much. If you're sleepwalking or have any of these other problems going on and nobody can tell you about it, you don't know, and you don't know how to start to address it. Do you know what I mean? You might be thinking, oh, I'm struggling to lose weight. I don't feel like I'm sleeping well, but, you know, I feel as though I'm going to sleep at this time and I'm getting up at this time and everything in between makes sense. Well, of course it will. You've got no record of getting up and, you know, going to the fridge and snacking or whatever it might be. not just that, but I'm sure that sleepwalking in itself, no matter what it is that you're doing, isn't going to give you the most rested feeling in the world. So really, yeah, you've got no idea that these things are going on. So you might just be feeling tired all the time. Like you mentioned earlier on, buddy, you might be getting 10 hours sleep a night and still not feeling rested.
Yeah.
And then you're thinking to yourself, why am I not feeling like I've had that rest?
Yeah.
And it can sometimes be stuff like sleepwalking that you're just
Totally,
not aware of.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
So
How would you know? I mean, obviously, you might, as you say, you might like look in the fridge and stuff's being eaten, but like, you know, otherwise you wouldn't know if it was something that's not really disturbing anything.
Yeah, you'd have absolutely no idea at all, which is going to be, of course, affecting the rest of your goals, really. So yeah, sleepwalking can be all of these things: driving a car, moving furniture, eating, and a lot more can go on during sleepwalking as well. But yeah, that's really going to, like I say, interfere with your sleep quality and leave you feeling as though you haven't had a great night's sleep as well. Okay, buddy. So question seven. Where were we? So driving while drowsy is similar to driving while intoxicated or under the influence. Is actually true. Which is amazing that there's no, to my knowledge, there's no law around it. You know.
It should be.
How many people, like I've worked with dozens of people over the years that, you know, are almost brag about the fact that they will roll out of bed 5 minutes before they need to leave the house, have a coffee, chuck your clothes on, roll into the car, and off you go.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you're behind the wheel of a car. You're essentially responsible for a hunk of metal before your brain's had time to wake up. Like that time of morning is the time that I put toast in the toaster and forget to put it down. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the sort of thing I'm doing at that time of my day.
Yeah.
I don't need to be getting behind the wheel of a car and driving, and you know, I can recognize that I'm not as sharp at that time of day. And of course your reaction time can make or break an accident when you're behind a wheel. Sure. So yeah, it can have as big an effect on your abilities and, like I say, reaction time as driving intoxicated. So, you know, whether it'll come into review at some point, I'm not sure, but like you say, I feel as though it should be. I don't even know how you would monitor, enforce that in any way, you know, other than the way they do with drink driving, where it would be a case of, right, I've seen that you're a little bit all over the road, I'm going to pull you over. But then how do they test how long you've been asleep? You need like a reflexes test, don't you? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's the idea of, I don't know, do you have any ideas, buddy, how you might actually go about enforcing that? Because, I mean, really, other than the old get out the car because they'll do a breathalyzer for drink driving and stuff like that, I mean, I could get out and walk in a straight line. Do you know what I mean? I might still be a bit drowsy.
There's no way to tell, is there, that how much hours of sleep someone's had, so it's I don't think you really can. It
is just a case of, you are driving like a bit of a pillock. Exactly. You know why? You know, I'm gonna pull you over, and you know, it might even be something that's prosecutable. You know, it might be reckless driving or whatever. At the end of the day, and sometimes I'm sure people have been done for doing silly things in the car while they have been drowsy from driving.
Sure.
Or drowsy from sleeping. Sorry. It is just a case of acknowledging, I guess, that it is a similar effect to. And taking that little bit of responsibility of, do you know what, I wouldn't get behind the wheel and drive after 3 pints. No. I'm not going to get up and drive after an 8-hour sleep and I've been awake for 5 minutes. Yeah. You know, giving yourself time to wake up. Because like we say, the answer to that one is actually true, and it can be just the same as driving under the influence as well. So definitely something to think about, maybe as the commute back to work becomes something that you're going to have to face every day again. Maybe, you know, the car is getting a little bit more use this summer than last summer. Definitely something to think about. Okay, question 8. If you fall a few hours behind in the amount of sleep your body needs, you can never make it up. True or false? So that one was actually false. Mm-hmm. You can make it up again. If you don't get all the sleep you need, and you go into almost like a sleep debt. Yeah. You know, if you don't get caught up, it does rack up, and you suffer tiredness and fatigue. I'm sure, like I say, we've all had a crazy week where we haven't slept very well. You know, Monday you haven't slept well the night before, you're a little bit drowsy, you're a little bit tired, you're not as sharp. Tuesday, you don't sleep as well again, and you fall further into that deficit. Tuesday is going to be, do you know, I've had experiences where I could say the Tuesday is just literally noticeably worse than Monday in a lot of different aspects. Then you don't sleep again Wednesday. Maybe Monday and Tuesday stressed you out even more. And you're getting worried about deadlines coming up for Friday at the back end of the week that you might not hit. And of course, you get more and more stress. Wednesday, you don't sleep as well again. And by the end of the week, you're absolutely wrecked. Like, mate, I used to work some 6-day weeks, and I would get to the point where my one day off, I would just want to sleep.
Yeah, no, it's horrible, isn't it, when it's that situation? Because it's like you've waited so long for that, and then you're so knackered you can't be bothered to do anything. So
it's like so and so say, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Like, yes, but also no, because I'm tired and I need to sleep. And again, you know, that can lead to if you're almost kind of burning the candle at both ends, certainly like I was at the time, it can lead to, of course, you don't have time for the stuff that you enjoy doing.
Exactly,
you know, certainly the socializing point of view, I would get to the point where someone would say to me, do you want to do this at the weekend? And I would say, no, I'm just going to sort of chill out. Maybe it's even be, I'm going to get on top of jobs in the house. It's my one day off sort of thing, you know. And you do sort of start to feel the effects of course, lack of that socializing, the stuff that you do enjoy doing. And often, again, that is not worth what it is that you're doing and the benefit that you're getting out of it, you know. For me, realizing it was me realizing that six days a week wasn't conducive to the lifestyle that I wanted, the way that I want to live, the energy that I want to have in my time off, and sort of saying, right, okay, I'm going to make sure that I am still sort of got a little bit of energy to do the stuff that I want to do, because one of my favorite sayings is that you can't pour from an empty cup, and you can't take care of other people, and you can't be there for other people when you're not looking after yourself as well. So yeah, definitely this idea of you've got to look after yourself. You've got to have you've got to make sure that you're giving yourself the basic things that the human body needs, and the human experience needs as well. And at the end of the day, if you're falling behind on sleep, you've got to make up for it at some point. You know, the old Sandman comes knocking, and you have got to get caught up at some point. You know, because like I say, the longer it goes on, the worse you're going to feel. And I think that some people could make the argument of, do you know what, I'm used to just 6 hours. I'm used to just 6 hours a night. You just might not be optimal.
Yeah, and I think that it's somewhat glamorized in that kind of like circle of like, you know, like, I don't know, like kind of business people or people who work hard. Like you hear like,
this
Elon Musk only gets 4 hours sleep, and it's like, dude, it's like for a fact that they definitely don't. They'll definitely sleep enough.
Yeah,
and it's like, I think that, you know, there's no better way to know absolutely, you know, there's no better way that you can kind of damage your body the most in the shortest amount of time than there is losing sleep. Because, you know, if you eat badly for a few days, you might feel like crap, but it's not going to do that much damage. But if you sleep badly for a few days, it's such a difference. You know, you underperform, you get weaker. Like, it's just really, it just wrecks your body. It really does.
Mate, yeah. Oh, it's sometimes when you get that tired, it just feels like the world's ending. Like,
I know.
It really does. It really, really does. So yeah, you've got to make sure that you're catching up on your sleep. But that is a really good point, mate. I do just want to tap into that before we move on. This idea of this hustle, this grind culture, this grind mentality that is forced upon or sort of glamorized, like you say. I wouldn't be surprised if that has just been a couple of nights or a couple of weeks that somebody like Elon Musk has had to only sleep for 4 hours, and it's almost been glamorized up to the point of, okay, doing this for however long it was necessary has got me to the point where I am. But let's not disguise the fact that it's a motivation tactic.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's a case of, I hustled my backside off and worked for minimum wage and barely got any sleep, and I'm a millionaire now. I expect you to do the same, because they're talking to their workforce. The workforce that makes them millions and billions. You know, this idea of, right, okay, it's a good thing to be working 4 jobs and getting getting 3 hours sleep a night and all of that. You know, it's really not. And you know what? The amount of people that do that way, the amount of people that go on to be Elon Musk, and the amount of people that go on to wreck their body and suffer physical, mental health, I know which end of those scales are a lot heavier. Exactly. Do you know what I mean? There's only one Elon Musk, there's one Bill Gates, there's one Richard Branson. You know, there'll be millions of people throughout time that have probably even just in this last 10 years, it seems to have really picked up this idea of this like I say, this hustle, this grind culture. Where it is just the idea of like just work, get yourself a side hustle going on, this, that, and the other, and I'm all for take it into your own hands, do something for yourself. If you work on a job, do something on the sidelines that's going to put more finances in your boat than in the person that you're working for. Absolutely, why not? But don't be doing it at essentially the expense of your soul, because that's what it feels like when you're tired and you're wrecked. That is what it feels like. So yeah, there's definitely like, it's not a good thing, and it's certainly nothing to brag about, this idea that, you know, you're sleeping 3 hours a night and working 21 hours a day. I respect that hustle and that drive, I really do. It's the fact that this is being promoted as a good thing and something that is it should be something to aspire to, is definitely not the case at all. And I feel like that's always worth mentioning, definitely. So yeah, your body needs the sleep. You're gonna need to make it up at some point. Don't get fooled by corporate propaganda. This idea that run yourself into the ground, so I can buy another yacht, and one day you might have a yacht of your own. Because that's what it is. That's what it is, really, isn't it? At the end of the day. Okay, guys. Question 9, my favorite. Which of the following can result from not getting enough sleep? Diarrhea, blurred vision, low-grade fever, all of the above. All of the above. And buddy, do you know what? Like, it breaks my heart to have to throw you. It breaks my heart to have to throw you under the bus like this. And this is why I don't sit next to Daniel in the office anymore. Once upon a time,
So,
Mate, do you want to tell?
Sure. So I think I was doing a session with, I think me and Mel covered this.
It was Mel, yeah.
And I said diarrhea as one of the answers. Which you know, Mel's amusing and
man, that was it.
Loved it. But like, I mean, but I don't know. It's just because I always feel like if I haven't slept enough, I have like a bit of an upset stomach. But I don't know. I mean.
Definitely. I do think it's a thing. and I tell you what, as well, what's the chances that when you're tired, you're not eating as well? True. You're not eating, you're not getting the nutrition. So there's probably that going on as well. You're probably making compromises within your diet because you're tired. Exactly. You know. The answer for this one was actually B, blurred vision. Yeah. Blurred vision, so not getting enough sleep, and again, it's kind of like almost similar to, if you'll know this one yourself, buddy, like if you've been sat looking at the laptop all day and your eyes are just straight, it really, really does, and sleep's exactly the same. Like, I'll have some days where I know that I haven't slept enough because my eyes are itchy, like physically itchy, and I'm like, I don't get hay fever or anything like that, really. I'm not, to my knowledge, not allergic to anything. But just when you're tired, this like vision, the first thing to go, like you say, again, that makes it worse. The idea of getting behind the wheel of a car, you know, and again, your reaction times, how well can you perceive stuff? It'd be interesting to get somebody to do a hazard perception test, maybe when they've just woke up, as opposed to when they've been up for a couple of hours. And compare results there. That would be interesting to see. But definitely blurred vision. Now, just to hopefully make you feel a little bit better, buddy, I would say that all of these could come from not getting enough sleep, because a low-grade fever, you're more likely to, if your immune system is compromised, through not getting enough sleep and through then not making the best food choices, you are much more likely to pick something up that is going to give you a little bit of a fever, or leave you feeling run down or feeling under the weather. All of these really can sort of come around through lack of sleep, but the much more direct one would be the blurred vision, because, like I said, that's definitely something that I've experienced. Usually, that could be my idea of saying like, okay, like I'm getting tired before my body and my brain lets me know, before I start yawning, if my eyesight starts to go a little bit, and like I say, I'm struggling to focus on stuff, that is my indicator to have a little bit of a break. Not necessarily to come away and have a nap, but just to maybe have a little bit of a recharge, you know, take your brain off it, take your eyes off it. Like you say, listen to a bit of a podcast while you're doing something, just give your mind something else to do. But then, of course, I'm sure you're going to feel a load better after you've had a bit of a sleep. Have you ever had like a tired headache, you know, when you're just so tired? And again, I think it is to do with the blurred vision and your body not taking stuff in. You're like, I've had those like migraines where I'm like, I need to sleep. Need to sleep, and that is normally not just after one day of not sleeping well. That's normally usually at the back end of a week of not sleeping very well. The headaches start to kick in, and it's like, right, I just need to have a nap. I need to have a sleep to make this headache go away. And more often than not, it does.
Yeah,
it does.
No, I can.
You wake up feeling groggy. You wake up feeling drowsy as anything, but the headache will definitely be gone, and that's you just starting to pay back that debt to the body. Right.
Sure.
Okay. So, question 10. Not getting enough sleep can lead to weight gain. True or false? Is of course true. We just linking into what we just mentioned a second ago. Not getting a great sleep can affect your appetite and lead to you overeating. You know, you're much more likely to be tired and craving sugary snacks to give you that little bit of a boost that gets you through the day. Maybe giving you a little bit of a quick energy burst. And of course, we've mentioned it before. You have a little energy burst, get you through an hour or two of work, then you start to come down the other side again. So what do? You do what worked last time. You go back to the snack drawer. You go back to whatever it might be. You know, you go and get yourself a coffee with 2-3 sugars in and a load of cream and stuff like that to make you feel a little bit better. You get a quick energy burst from it, and then, like I say, you come down from the other side. And this sort of coping mechanism can actually lead to diabetes.
I'll be right back, mate. I'll just be 2 seconds.
Yeah, no worries. Because it can be a sustained coping mechanism. You know, you don't get enough sleep one night, you're on the sugary snacks to get you through the next day. You don't get enough sleep the next night, back to the sugary snacks the next day, and eventually it becomes this way of you coping, which is it's not good at all, really. It's essentially like, it's not a treatment, it's not a cure, because sugar, in essence, beyond what it needs to do as a carbohydrate and glucose, sugar's kind of poison to the human body. So it would be the same as saying like, right, okay, to get you through not sleeping very well, I'm just going to give you a little injection of arsenic every morning. It's like, no, you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it. It wouldn't make sense. So this idea of taking in something that is equally probably bad for your health to combat not getting enough sleep, which is bad for your health, it doesn't land you in a better position than when you started, and you could potentially make things worse. So yeah, not getting enough sleep, it's not a case of your body says, oh, I haven't had enough sleep, I'm just going to balloon up overnight. Not at all. But the way that your body copes and adapts to this lack of sleep, and some of the habits we can get into, can lead to pretty quick weight gain. Again, that might be something that dozens of people that I know have experienced over the last year. You know, when everything's been going on, there's been stress, access to good food hasn't been quite as much. You know, we haven't been sleeping as well. And just from, you know, there's always other factors, and there is usually food involved as well somewhere along the line, but it can come from not getting a great amount of sleep, and not getting as much sleep as your body actually needs. Okay, guys, so I will spin on to question 11. Oh, Daniel's already there by the looks. Nice one. Question 11. Sleep disorders and chronic sleep have been linked to which of the following? Heart disease, stroke, high blood pressure, or all of the above? Is actually all of the above. You know, your body is going to start struggling in a lot of different ways if it's not getting optimal sleep to recover, because like Daniel mentioned earlier on in the session, that is the point where your body's going to get the chance to recover the most. You know, it's why we wake up with sleep in the corner of our eye, because that is where our body is cleaning the eyes out, pretty much, really. You know, that is where our body does so much recovering, and if we're not getting enough of it, health's going to start breaking down in a lot of different aspects, and like I say, bringing stuff like risk of heart disease, stroke, and high blood pressure are all in there as well, that we're much more at risk of if we're not getting enough sleep. Okay, guys, so I'm going to jump one question ahead of you. So question 12, insomnia is considered chronic when a person has difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep at least 2 nights a week for a month or longer. Yeah, so very sort of, like I say, so very sort of specific, and we're looking at sort of real medical classifications and diagnosis here. So it's actually false. So chronic would be as above, but 3 nights a week. Yeah, it's got to be 3 nights a week for a month or longer to be considered chronic. If it's just 2 nights a week, it's not considered chronic. It is considered to be acute. Yeah. So acute would be just a few nights a week for a couple of weeks. 3 nights or more for a month or longer, we're then getting into what would be called or classed as chronic fatigue. And that is where, of course, any form of or chronic insomnia, any form of insomnia is again going to affect your sleep quality and your sleeping pattern. But chronic insomnia is going to require that next level of treatment, be it sleeping tablets or whatever it might be. If you're not on them already, it'll be just up that next notch and something that does need dealing with. So the answer for question 12, just while we're waiting for Daniel to get back, was false, because chronic needs to be 3 nights a week and not just 2 for a month or longer. Okay, guys, so the last one, just while we're waiting on Daniel getting back, question 13, sleep apnea is characterized by pauses in breathing while you sleep. These pauses can occur how many times per hour? And we've got up to 15 times, up to 5 times, up to 10 times, up to 20 times, or 30 times or more. So this idea that pauses of breathing in your sleep, how many times can it happen per hour? And the answer is a little bit astonishing, to be honest. It is up to 30 and more, really. 30 times or more, which is in the space of an hour. That's every 2 minutes. That is a pause in your breathing in your sleep every 2 minutes. And you could essentially not even have a clue that this is going on. Coming back to what me and Daniel mentioned earlier on, the idea of if you live by yourself or with someone who sleeps really heavily and isn't really awake through the night, there's nobody and there's no way for you to know that these things are happening. So obstructive sleep apnea is essentially the airway collapsing or being blocked during sleep. So you're going to get stuff like loud snoring, moaning, a lot of irritability, definitely daytime sleepiness, memory and concentration problems, dry throat when waking up, and like I say, people often don't know that they have it. So yeah, this idea of like this airway getting blocked could potentially happen every 2 minutes in your sleep, and you wouldn't even have a clue. So we've had I've worked with people over the years that, like I say, have had 12 hours sleep a night, and they wake up still tired and they're just not getting the quality of sleep that they need. They're using, like Daniel mentioned earlier, these fitness trackers, using an app on your phone to sort of gauge even roughly how well you've slept. It's not an exact science, but it's better than having no data at all. So yeah, they can actually track the quality of your sleep. And if you realize that your sleep's being interrupted every couple of minutes, or certainly in some of the more extreme cases, like we say, every 2 minutes while you're asleep, it's no wonder that you're going to wake up and feel absolutely awful the next day. And then of course it's okay, how do I treat this anyway? What do I do to treat this, and go from here? So yeah, that might be something that if you're sorry, buddy.
Yeah. Hey, man.
He's in the background. Okay, cool.
Sorry,
yeah, no, it's all right. It's all right. I wasn't sure whether you were talking to me or not. There, No worries. We've just been talking about, buddy, this idea that sleep apnea, and the airway getting blocked, while you're asleep can actually happen every 2 minutes in your sleep. It can actually. The answer for this one was D. 30 times or more every hour. You can get these pauses in your breath, which
Yeah.
sort of, like I was just saying, ties back into what we mentioned not so long ago, where if you live by yourself or with someone who sleeps really heavily, you've got no idea that this is something that you're even experiencing.
Yeah.
You know, so you could potentially be getting 10, 12 hours sleep a night and feeling absolutely awful.
I know.
And no idea why. So yeah, definitely speak to somebody about it. Try and get hold of an app on your phone. I just mentioned there, buddy, you know, it's not an exact science, but having any data in front of you is better than having no data that you can look at. So you maybe can start to analyze your sleep. And if you see that your sleep's getting disturbed quite regularly, you know, it might be worth going and speaking to a GP about, you know, the possibility of sleep apnea or other issues that are causing you to not get the sleep that you need.
Yeah, of course, mate.
Right, guys. Okay, that was it for the quiz. By all means, drop me an email. Let me know how you got on. If you've sort of followed along in the chat, and you want to let us know how you got on, by all means do. Like I say, there's some interesting stuff in there, and hopefully, just getting you assessing your sleep a little bit more and thinking about your sleep a little bit more, because, mate, it's so surprising the amount of people that I've had come to me as clients and come to me for advice, and they want to work on their exercise, they want to train 7 days a week, they want to eat absolutely like bang on the calories that they need, the macros that they need, and they just are not paying any attention to their sleep.
Yeah, no, honestly, mate, I totally, yeah. And I mean, it's the thing that's most overlooked, but it's probably the most easiest to do, because all you need to do is close your eyes. But
it's usually the biggest missing piece, especially when you get to the point where you're thinking about your exercise and your food a little bit more. Your sleep is the next biggest piece to slot in alongside
exactly.
Those. It really, really is, you know. And of course, all the sleep in the world isn't going to get you exercise when you're not taking yourself off to do your exercise, and it's not going to give you good foods and stuff like that. But like I say, once you've even started to address those, you don't have to have them totally dialed in and bang on where you need them. But even once you've started to address those, you've got to start thinking about your sleep and your sleep quality, because that is going to, like you say, usually for the least effort.
Yeah.
You know, there's no meal prep involved. There's no taking yourself outside when it's raining to go for a walk. There's none of that. Yeah. You've just got to set yourself a bedtime, go to bed at that bedtime, and do your best to get to sleep. Yeah. And if you can't get to sleep, think about why you're struggling to get to sleep. So it is normally one of the easier ways to make a really, really big jump in your well-being, your fitness, and certainly when it comes to within your own fitness journey and stuff like that. Sleep is an absolutely massive one. Again, you don't have to get it where it needs to be. Treat it exactly like your nutrition and your exercise. If it's better than it was, you're moving in the right direction. It doesn't have to be ideal. You know, you build towards that. And I think this idea of, okay, it's going to be baby steps in all of these aspects helps with sustainability, because you're not kidding yourself that you're just going to have it all fixed and where it needs to be and doing it perfectly. And you know what, getting 8 hours sleep a night and waking up and making yourself a green smoothie and going for a run, that's not going to happen immediately. You know, thinking about the sleep that you're getting, cutting down your caffeine intake, putting your phone down before midnight, thinking about how often you are exercising each week, taking yourself off for a walk, starting to think about the food that you're eating. These are all the little first steps that ultimately unlock the passageways that you need to go down to get where you need to be. But you're not going to be there immediately, you know, and it's giving yourself these little baby steps to make these adjustments to your lifestyle, because you need to make these changes now that are going to be sustainable, you know, as opposed to something that you can do for a couple of weeks and then you sort of tail off, because it is such a big change to what you're used to, you know. So sustainability is the case, even when it comes to getting our sleep a little bit better as well. You're not just going to say to yourself, oh, do you know what, I haven't thought about that, I'm going to go to bed and get 8 hours tonight. If you can do that tonight, absolutely amazing. You know, we're not all going to be in that position. It's going to be little baby steps and a lot of identifying what's going on and tweaking things a little bit. Okay, buddy. So, how does sleep affect our mental health as well? Because we've talked about that quite a lot this morning. It's something that I've definitely gone on about, because I'm aware, and you know what, I'm definitely an advocate for it being as important as the exercise, as the good food when it comes to our mental health and our sleep. You know, like I say, how often does it feel like I say, everything is unmanageable, everything's the walls are crumbling in, the world's ending. You know, you need a sleep. And then you wake up and you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad actually. Do you know what I mean? I'll just sort that out now. Or okay, like that thought was going to happen. It hasn't happened. You know, you're dealing with things so much better. The stresses, the anxieties, just by having that little bit more sleep.
Exactly. No, you're totally right, and I think that it's literally it's like an old saying, isn't it? But if you're ever like angry, sleep on it, and then it's like night and day, literally. But like
it can be, it really can be, yeah.
Because you know, that's why it's like it's always good to make a decision if you sleep on something, because then the next day you're like, okay, I know that better. Or even like, no matter how bad a day can be, the next day is always better, or you always have a new kind of bit of perspective. You know, it's
definitely.
It's pretty rare that you wake up and then the next day is exactly the same as the other day. But like, the amount of times I've had bad days and then I've gone to sleep and then the next day I feel better. It's like, and it's that rest and giving you a fresh perspective. And
definitely. And you know what? It's almost like a weight lift. You know, when you do finally get that sleep. And like you say, just everything, like the filters and the processes that information goes through to enter your brain is just so more. Trying to think of the right word is just so much more. It's a much nicer process, isn't it? You know what I mean? Yeah. There's less to warp certain stimulus. Do you know what I mean? Someone snaps at you, and you're really, really tired, you might get really, really defensive, really irritable. If you aren't so tired, or you go away and then have a little bit of a sleep and you get that sleep back, you might think, oh, do you know what? That person was maybe just having a bad day. You know what I mean? Maybe it wasn't meant to be taken out on me, you know? Not to say that it should be taken out on you, and that might be something that you go and address with that person, but you're in a much better place to do it once you've had sleep. You know, it's not going through these filters that's warping everything and making you think, oh, the world's against us, like this person's got it in for us. Like, no, like you might just be tired. You might just be tired. I'm not gonna say that none of those feelings ever have credibility, because sometimes they do, and it's not always just a case of going and getting more sleep. But that's always where I would go to first. You know, control the things that you can control. Think about sleep. Think about the way that you're perceiving and reacting to information that's coming in. And if you're not happy about the way that you're reacting to that information, that comes from within. Yeah. If you're not happy about the information that you're receiving, that's when you go and speak to that person and say, look, maybe that was a little bit uncalled for. You know, I know you're having a bad day. I'm having a bad day too. You know, and of course, those work relationships, friend relationships, those social relationships can actually be a lot stronger and a lot better just because you're in a better position to deal with them. You know, just from like, you're not tired and essentially feeling like a wrung out sponge, because again, I've had days like that. I've had weeks like that. They're not good. They're not a good feeling, and you are a different person again when you've had a sleep. So, you know, that Snickers advert where you turn into a right diva when you're hungry. Yeah. It should be when you're tired. It should be when you're tired. Definitely. Dude, do you know what I mean? I can cope with missing a meal. If I miss a snooze or don't get a good sleep, I'm no good the next day. Like,
I can feel it in myself as well when like, and it's funny because like, you know, when you're a kid, there's nothing I used to hate more than when I was annoyed about something. I'm talking about when I was a little kid. And then your parents would always be like, oh, you're just tired. And I just think, I'm not tired. But like,
no, I'm not.
You know what it is? It's true. And literally, I still think that way as an adult. Like, you know, literally, like, you feel like when you're tired or you had a long day the night before, you couldn't get enough sleep. And then it's like, you feel yourself getting irritated by stuff that wouldn't irritate you normally. And it's like, you can just feel that you know, the irritability is so much just more that, like, it's just, you know, and it can be agitated by stuff. You don't have as much patience, and like, it's just it completely changes. So when you have a good night's sleep, you're like, oh, you know, it's totally better now.
Yeah, breath of fresh air, isn't it? If you don't mind, buddy, would you just boot onto the next slide for us, please, mate? Because we've got a little word search to do just while we're sort of sitting and nattering about the mental health side of things. So what we've got in there, guys, we've got 16 words, all to do with mental health. Yeah. So all to do with our mental health and how sleep affects our mental health. So pick out as many as you can. Go through, like I say, if you still got your pen and paper from when we did the quiz, by all means, just jot down any that jump out to you. And like I say, things that can affect our sleep, our mental health, any words that you do see. And then we'll just see how many you got in just a minute when we move on. And of course, again, if you're a little bit like me and you can't move on from a word search until you found them all, just pause it. If you need that little bit longer, and catch up with me and Daniel in just a minute. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there, and like I say, it does really affect your mental health. This sleep and the sleep quality, exactly like you just mentioned there, buddy. You know, like stuff that would wind you up, or that you'd start to get a little bit irritable about, like really gets to you on those days, doesn't it? And it's like we've joked on before, like if you're going to catch your belt loop on a door handle, it's always the day where you've got no time for it, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's never when you're having a good day and you can laugh it off. It's always like when you very least need it. Normally when you're carrying a hot drink as well, you know. But it is little things like that, and it just becomes so much more. It becomes magnified because you feel in this compromised state where you can't deal with it, and even the acknowledgement of, oh, I'm tired. You can't do anything about it in the middle of the day, you know. So you've got to acknowledge that to yourself, and realizing that your chance to do something about it is potentially sailed when you put that other episode on last night, or when you played another match on Overwatch or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, exactly. Do you know what I mean? Like, we've all done it. One more game, and then I can't go to bed on a loss. And then when you
dude, exactly. But like literally, I was doing my placements the other day, and it's like I spent like so many hours playing Overwatch, and then like I'm crap on it now because I haven't played in like 2 weeks or something, and I played in like all of my reflexes, my like timing's gone, and then also there's that on top of the fact that the meta changes, so other characters become more powerful than other characters. So I'm just like absolutely crap on it now, and it's like, dude, like it's like, what's all the point in spending that time on it? But it's so true, mate. It's literally, it's just nice that in life you have like an off button for a bit, that you can just literally be like, okay, all of that stuff happened today. Let's just turn it off, and then when you're in your bed, that's it. It's your own time, and you can just switch it off, and then it's nice to be able to do that.
Like you said earlier on, buddy, I think a day can be as bad as they come in isolation, sort of excluding extreme circumstances. Do you know what I mean? Sort of like, of course, if maybe a bereavement or something like that, you know, of course, you can't just turn it off and it's gone the next day. But how often is the next day just a chance to start fresh? Definitely. And the stuff that was a problem the day before isn't a problem anymore, or you realize that it wasn't even a problem in the first place, and you maybe just weren't dealing with stuff very well, you know.
And it's so hard to do that as well, because when something's going wrong, like if you're playing Overwatch or Untitled and you're losing and you're going onto a losing streak, it's hard to turn it away because you think, oh, I want to fix it now. But you know, you need to come away from it. And I mean, this is a ridiculous comparison, but I use this comparison all the time when talking about sleep because it's true. But I used to play my mate on FIFA all the time, and I literally would lose when I was tired, and I had a good chance of beating him and I mean, obviously it became a psychological thing, but like I knew if I was tired and I played him, I wasn't probably going to beat him, because your reactions that you need when you play FIFA, it's like, you know, you've got to think about reads, where he's going to pass, and where you're going to pass and how you're going to score, all those kind of things, and it's like you just can't calculate in real time if your brain's like a little bit lethargic and it's not catching up to you. You know, it's not sharp.
Yeah, not when you're in direct competition with someone whose brain is working a little bit quicker than yours.
Exactly.
At the time, you're immediately off to a disadvantage. But you know, I don't make any secret about the fact that I'm a little bit of a gamer and I've always loved games. The amount of nights I've been into like an RPG, a role-playing game, and you look at the clock and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and you just oh dear, there's nothing I can do now. I'm still up for college in 3 hours, whether I want to be or not. I've still got to get up. And you know what? It is halfway through the next day that you are going through that feeling of like, I'm just knackered, the world's out to get me. That you realise that your chance to deal with it and not be in this position has long since gone, and you just need to not repeat that same mistake again tonight, which is something that is very easily done as well, isn't it? You do the same thing the next night and it compounds, and yeah, sooner or later you just end up needing to catch up on a load of sleep. So it's not, of course, it's not always video games, but it can be, like I say, putting another episode or something on, or starting that movie too late, or whatever it might be, coffee too late, or whatever, realizing that sometimes, not all the time, I wouldn't say all the time, but sometimes the fact that you're really, really tired and struggling to cope is your own fault. And
Oh, of course, yeah.
It's a really bitter pill to swallow in that moment, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that to me has served as many a reminder over the years of, okay, tonight I need to be a little bit more on it, and I need to do what I need to do, because tomorrow I need to be able to do what I need to do. Definitely.
No, you're exactly right, dude.
Right, guys, let's get a little bit of a look through some of the answers in this word search then, before we think about wrapping up for the day. So we've actually got an answers slide to go next. Yeah, nice one, bud. Cool. So working, I'll go across ways. Yeah, so we'll go sort of in columns. So we had repairing your body, something that we mentioned earlier on. Repairing your body is a huge part of getting to sleep. Your body can use the protein that's sort of within your system, that's within your diet, and start to repair bits that need it, cells, muscles. So I even mentioned earlier on, your eyes are cleaning themselves. That's why we wake up asleep in the corner of our eye and stuff like that. It's all going on while we're asleep, which is why we need to make sure that we're getting that sleep. Next column across, we've got happiness, sort of halfway down. Happiness and sleep, they aren't directly linked.
Yeah.
But it is so much easier to be in a good mood and feel happy when you're well rested. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've sat there and watched a film that I have laughed myself bad at when I've been in a good mood and when I've been feeling it. I've put the same film on when I've been tired, and I've not laughed through the first half an hour and then fallen asleep. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're just not feeling it, just not in that place. Just pretty much because you're tired, definitely. Yeah, your health, we've talked about quite a lot this morning, having a big impact on your or having a big impact from your sleep and stuff like that, be it the ways that you cope with the lack of sleep, the lack of energy, drinking a load of coffee, eating a load of the wrong sort of food, sugary snacks, all of that sort of stuff. I can tell you full well that I would much rather exercise on a day that I'm feeling well and rested. I'm sure we're all more in a position to say, oh, I'll do that exercise tomorrow.
Yeah.
On days that you feel absolutely knackered and terrible.
Yeah.
So your cardiovascular system, your heart's not getting the workout, your lungs aren't getting the workout, probably just because you're tired,
Yeah.
Right. We've sort of mentioned a minute ago, albeit through sort of video games and stuff like that, but your concentration will dip, your focus will dip. Again, should you be behind the wheel of a car, if you're not sleeping very well or haven't had as much sleep as you need, is your performance going to suffer at work, which potentially brings on more stress because you're getting it in the neck from the gaffer that, you're not hitting targets, so your performance is dipped, potentially when they've got really, really good expectations because you're reliable. What's going on all of a sudden? This isn't like you. And yeah, it could just be lack of sleep. You're gonna be less alert. Sort of what Daniel mentioned earlier on, like even just the way that you react to a stimulus in a video game is one thing, but if you're on the line at work and you're tired and you're just sort of zoned out, somebody gets their hand in a machine and you're the person who's got to respond and hit the big red button and turn it off, and you're stood there thinking, oh, I'd love to sleep.
Watch the Machinist, if you want an example of that, because it's Christian Bale, and it's his like descent into madness, and he's an insomniac, and it's like one of the best portrayals of like insomnia in a movie.
Oh, really? Really? I quite fancy that.
It's like a horror kind of. I would say it has a lot of horror elements. It's
Is that the one he dropped a load of weight for?
Dude, yes.
Yes,
disgusting in it. He looks horrible in it.
Yeah, that guy has done so much to his body for the sake of his work and for his art. Like, got a lot of respect for him and the way that he does his job. Really, yes. Very, very method actor, isn't he? So, yeah, I'll have to check that out actually, just for the representation of into sort of like that descent into the craziness that would come with just being starved to sleep.
Yeah.
Starved to sleep because there is not many quicker ways to start to make you feel as though you are going a little bit. You know what I mean? Like definitely. And it is because all these things are starting to be impaired. You know, your concentration, how alert you are, your mood's going to be down as well. You know, your memory as well. You might not even realize, because it might not be something quite direct as, or I can't remember my phone number all of a sudden that I've got memorized. But little things that you've got to do around the house. Do you know what I mean? Like, it might just be I set the washing machine earlier on, and totally forgot about it. And now I've gone out, and now my clothes have just sat in the water for the rest of the day, and I need to do the whole thing again. That sort of thing, that silly little mistake. Like I mentioned earlier on, like I'll put toast in a toaster and forget to put it down, or even put it down and then wander off and forget that I've even done it. Do you know what I mean? Like when I'm still in that drowsy half asleep state, I go into the kitchen at dinner time, obviously while I'm working from home, go into the kitchen at dinner time and me toast there. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I forgot about my breakfast this morning. But again, it just comes from not really being totally alert and totally checked in with what it is that you're doing, you know? Of course, your energy level's going to be affected. You know, we sort of mentioned earlier on, your energy, your drive to be active is going to be less when you're tired. Your attitude, the way that you perceive things, the way that you respond to things and react to other stuff in the environment is going to be affected. And of course, when it comes to the mental health side of things, like sleep and good sleep can be really helpful in reducing depression, or sort of like the negative effects of depression, and can be helpful in coping. The thing to be careful with depression, of course, is depression kinda, to the best of my understanding and the best of my experience, almost just kind of makes you want to sleep all the time anyway, or can make you want to sleep quite a lot more anyway. So it's getting good sleep and making sure that you're getting enough sleep, because it's not getting enough sleep can lead to depressive symptoms, but not necessarily depression.
True.
Whereas with depression, you know, of course, you want to make sure that you're getting good sleep, but you'd also want to be tackling it with energy, exercise and good food, and socializing and stuff like that. So it's not to say that it's a cure. And again, it's just something to be aware of with depression or with depressive symptoms, that, you know, you could potentially end up sleeping too much.
Yeah.
But you know, there is definitely that to think about as well. Interesting one that sort of stood out to me was preventing cancer as well. Actually, good sleep patterns, and you think to yourself, well, how on earth does sleeping well and sleeping right reduce cancer? But you think if your body's repairing while you're asleep, and cancer is a cell that has tried to repair itself and has mutated.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Because that is going on while you're asleep, and your body's not being as efficient and not managing to do what it needs to do quite as much. And that's not to say that like you don't get enough sleep and all your cells in your body forget how to repair themselves, and you're just gonna like pretty much dissolve on a DNA level. Do you know what I mean? Like down on that cellular level. But at the same time, your body is much more likely to make mistakes it's almost like copying a code, isn't it, and making a mistake. That's what cancer is. Your body's tried to copy a code and got one of the digits wrong. Pretty much. So helping your body be in a position to be as efficient as possible when doing that, of course, is going to help reduce the risk, for sure. I think we've definitely mentioned, of course, how it can affect our physical health throughout the morning, reducing stress, tackling, hopefully help you realize that stuff that seemed this stressful maybe was only this stressful, you know, or maybe you realize it was nothing to stress over at all. You know, you were maybe just overreacting or reacting differently because you needed a little bit more sleep. Of course, I'm just trying to see which ones are going across as they bleed into each other. Of course, we've got smarter is in there as well. We're of course going to be smarter, more alert, more on the ball. Probably do a little bit better on certainly reasoning, logic, common sense. When we're more alert and more awake and a little bit more sort of critical. And of course, your lifestyle as well, your whole lifestyle. Like if you sleep 8 hours a night, the whole other 16 hours are going to be pretty much shaped by what it is.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? How well you're sleeping. how well you're sleeping and how refreshed you're feeling the next day is just going to have a huge impact on your lifestyle. And
Totally,
you know,
man.
we're not just talking the food that you eat and stuff like that. Like, the more tired you are, the more isolated and withdrawn you might start to be. The more less you are to engage in social things. The more or the less likely you are to stop doing things that you actually enjoy doing, you know, going out to sporting events, that sort of thing. I can vouch for well that, you know, it's no secret that I love my basketball. It's no secret that I'll go up and watch the Newcastle Eagles play live when I can. You know, when I was working 6 days a week, I never got up there once, I don't think. I got up there once, though. Through that whole period of working 6 days a week, I don't think I went to one basketball game, and it was just, again, absolutely knackered. And you know what? There are other there's bigger problems out there. Do you know what I mean? That's not me sitting there and twisting, saying, "Oh well, I had to work really hard for a little bit, didn't get to go and see sports." You know, it is more just the broader idea of I was really tired, and that impacted. I just wasn't getting the stuff in my life that I wanted to, which made me realize that, you know, this balance of this work that I'm doing doesn't even line up with sort of the lifestyle that I want. So why am I doing it, you know? And that little bit of self-reflection there for sure. But definitely I would say that through this period where I was more tired than I've probably ever been, I can vouch for all of these things, you know, and lifestyle. And do you want to come for a beer this weekend? Like, they ask you on a Tuesday and you already say no because you know you're going to be tired. Like, that's the sort of thing that we're talking about. Yeah, your lifestyle starts to change, and within 6 months, it might be these little things start to drop off and they start to change. And within 6 months, you might be living a totally different life that might just be stemming from the fact that you're not sleeping very well. It really can. It really can. Right, guys. So that'll do us for the old word search there. I think we've covered everything on the next slide as well, sort of to link in with depression and anxiety as well. Like I say, like we mentioned, sort of dropping out of activities, worrying, maybe unnecessarily worrying, you know, worrying about stuff that doesn't even need to be worried about, stressing about stuff that doesn't need to be worried about. We've mentioned lack of energy, wanting to sleep more, craving all the wrong foods. Because I think certainly when we start to move on to depression and anxiety, and I am no mental health expert, but of course, these, I've always found it helps to give these illnesses almost sort of their own body, their own being, like their own agenda for sure, their own motivation. Like depression and anxiety, depression for sure doesn't want you doing anything other than laying in bed, because that's where it is easy to influence you and easy to manipulate you and to maintain that hold over you. And that is where it definitely becomes more of a cycle of, right, I'm going to eat unhealthy foods, because you end up eating unhealthy foods, you're not exercising, and of course these illnesses are having their way with you, where they're putting you in a position where they can tell you, oh, okay, you are lazy, yeah, you are this, you are that, because they're making you that way. That is how they work. It's essentially like, other people may disagree with me. Like I say, I'm not an expert, but it's essentially a parasite. It needs a host to live off of, and it needs to manipulate that host to do what lets it thrive. You know, and mental illness is exactly the same. It's especially the likes of depression, anxiety. It wants you to feel a certain way because that's where it is the most powerful. Really, you know, that is my experience with mental health issues, for sure. So, yeah, like you end up in this almost sort of vicious cycle of, it's almost like a self-destruct, because it's then easy to feel sorry for yourself. You know, it's easy for them to make you withdraw from your friends and family, and then whisper in your ear and tell you that you're alone and nobody loves you. You know, it's put you in that position and then laid out in front of you as evidence to the point that it's trying to make, and that's definitely not the case at all. You know, so again, it's easy to fall into this sort of reciprocating cycle, really. Which is why we just need to be aware of always, of course, the mental health side of things. And I think that there needs to be a big focus on mental and physical health as we come out of lockdown and move back towards any kind of normality. Just from the last year alone, not to mention everything else, you know. There'll be a lot of people out there where certain things for the last year have gone unchallenged and become habit. and not necessarily healthy habits as well. You know, so our mental health is something that we all need to be in tune with, certainly as we move back towards normality. That's for sure. But I think that'll about do us for today, guys. I've got a little crossword for you to do next. So what I'm actually going to do, because I've noticed the time, I'm going to read out the questions, and then if you guys want to do the crossword, if you guys want to check your answers, test your knowledge and your understanding from this morning, by all means, drop me the answers in an email or in a message, and I'm more than happy to come across those and check those. So, guys, I'll just blast through these ever so quick, and then get back out and enjoy the sunshine for the rest of the day. Okay, guys, so one across is something that we can do to share and express your thoughts and feelings to a person who is going to listen. Yeah. 2 down. People tend to go on these at least once a year to get a little bit of a break from their job or a change of scenery. Yeah. So the American term. So I'll give you this one as a little bit of a clue. Yeah. So I'll give you this one to pad the rest out from. So people go on these at least once a year to get a break from their job and other stresses. Is a vacation. Yeah. We would probably just say a holiday. But whatever you want to call it, you know, I think there is a lot can be said for taking a little bit of a break, change of scenery, change of environment, just to decompress a little bit. Okay, so 3 down. What are you doing when you're taking time off work, doing nothing but enjoying yourself? Yeah, getting your feet up, a little bit of rest and what? Yeah, 4 across. What can happen if people? What can happen if your body gets run down from stress and lack of sleep? Yeah. 5 across, you should get 5 hours, you should get 8 hours a day to maintain health and happiness. 8 hours of what? Yeah. We should be able to get that one after this morning, that's for sure. 6 down, what is it called when people talk to a mental health professional? Yeah. 7 down, people in our life that help us cope with stressful times because they know us and will listen. Yeah. Family and who? Yeah. 8 across, this is done out loud when something's funny and tends to make you feel better. Absolutely. Yeah. 9 across, to manage your stress through different ways that can help you make you feel better, or your ability to what with a situation. 10 down was you can do this at your park, at the gym, or in the house to get a little bit of fitness, be a little bit more active. And 11 down, or 11 down was a feeling of high stress, panic and worry, sometimes include physiological symptoms. Yeah, so we've talked about it this morning, depression and something else that causes that high feeling of stress, panic and worry. So there's your clues for the crossword, guys. If you do like a little bit of a weekly crossword to do, by all means, like I say, just fire your answers across and I'll double check those. And that will do us for this morning. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Of course, thank you, Daniel, for jumping on. Pleasure as always, mate.
Absolutely did.
We'll be back next week to look at if we can just go to the last slide, buddy.
Got it, mate.
Like I say, spot on, mate. Cheers. In next week's session, like I say, we're going to be looking at food labels a lot more, talking about nutrition, the benefits of eating a healthy diet, how we can actually use food labels to identify foods that are high, medium, and low in different ingredients and different macros and stuff like that. So that is next week. Of course, we'll be back next week at exactly the same time, 10 till 12. We got started a little bit late this morning because of technical difficulties, but yeah, 10 or 12 next week we'll be back. And of course, as always, don't forget to fill in the survey, which is in the description just below the video. So if you click that little down arrow next to the title of today's video, everything will be there. There'll be a little survey for you to do, like I say, 30 seconds tops, and it really, really helps us out. We like to know what we're doing well, and of course where we can be even better to meet you guys. That's for sure. So surveys in the description, and the link for the fitness video is in the description as well, because at the end of all of our health and fitness sessions, we make sure that we do some kind of activity. Of course, when we are back in the classroom, we'll actually be doing a little bit of sports and activity as well, which is always great. So yeah, we'll be back next week, and like I say, try out the fitness video today. Let us know how you get on. I'm aware that, again, it might be the first fitness that you're doing in a while, so I've put just a nice little stretching video on there for this morning, but the link will take you straight to our playlist with all of our workouts in if you're feeling extra motivated and fancy something a little bit more challenging this morning. So good luck, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy the rest of your week. Do you have anything you want to add, buddy, before we shoot?
I think that's it, mate. You covered everything there, bud.
Excellent, mate. Spot on. That'll do for me then. Right, guys. So everybody take care of yourself. Stay safe. Have a good week. Enjoy the sunshine while it lasts. And I'll catch you on next Wednesday, if not before. Cool. Take it easy.